Hey guys, it's Dash Zach back with another review and wearing a hat because I wore it all day and my hair is matted down. It's the Lamzu Paro, an ergo from Lamzu that we sort of knew about for a long time and never officially launched until it came out as the Paro Aurora. It's their first ergo since the Thorn, a sort of stubby small ergo that I thoroughly enjoyed, and many are claiming that this mouse is a Death Adder V3 Mini, but is that the case and could this be the perfect ergo for you? Let's find out. So here we have it, the Lamzu Paro, and let me tell you, not easy to accurately slide a mouse across a glass pad for this intro. But anyway, this is an ergo from Lamzu, their first one since the Thorn, their only one beside the Thorn. And when I saw this announced, and even the early reviews, I didn't really know what to think about this. It looked like an EC shape, sort of like a mini Death Adder. I'm not really a big ergo guy. I know some people like Boardsy had a really bad experience with their unit. Other people absolutely love this, said it was the mouse for them. So I had to get one, try it out myself. This mouse comes in at $120, 8K, $39.50, Nordic MCU, WebDriver, blah, blah, blah. You get the gist. Advertised at 48 grams. And with that, straight into the implementation. So the clicks on this mouse are the ever-loved Omron Opticals, and the implementation here is actually extremely good. They're very light and spammable, almost akin to the Maya X, which I always said were some of the best Omron Opticals that I'd ever felt. These are close, if not as good as those in my opinion. I absolutely love the clicks on this mouse. There's some side-to-side play here if you're trying to find it, and honestly, man, I hate how black mice look on camera. Anyway, you can see that here on both sides. But beyond that, nice comfort grooves. A bit of pre and post travel that makes the clicks rebound very, very well. It is quite a bit heavier here on the top, but in the middle and bottom, you're getting very light, very spammable experiences. It does get lighter as you go down the entire button here. And overall, the clicks were a standout feature of this mouse, and it kept me coming back to it and using it on a pretty regular basis since I've gotten this for my review. The scroll wheel has a standard Lamzu styling on it, and it's a Lamzu scroll wheel. You have very defined steps. The scroll is light, but very enjoyable. The rubber feels high quality, and the click is medium light and very spammable. The side buttons on this, I get some light on them, are pretty darn good. They're large, pretty much accessible from anywhere on the mouse. You can see they're very centrally located. They're very large. They're sort of rounded. They're never really flat at any point, and they protrude very nicely here. They don't sink into the mouse at all. There's barely any pre-travel, and they're extremely spammable. Honestly, almost perfect as far as side buttons go. I don't have any really complaints about them. The build quality of this mouse is great. There's zero side flex. The slightest amount of bottom flex here you can see, and no other flex to speak about anywhere on the mouse. Built like a tank, sub 50 grams for an ergo. That's very impressive. The coating on this is pretty good. It's just like a standard Lamzu black coating. It's not the absolute grippiest, but I had no problems with it in a game. I use my standard grip tape back here. As you can see here, pick up some fingerprints, but it's nothing crazy. But if that's something that bothers you, something to note, you might want to pick up the white colorway. I would if I had a choice. Not really a wet coating that has just like crazy grimy fingerprints on it, but one that does pick them up. It's rubberized, it's grippy, it's good. 8 out of 10, solid coating. Coming to the bottom of the mouse, just like the Inca, they made this a solid shell bottom and it looks almost like a Skyrox mouse, which is not surprising, as that is their sub brand. I do still like the signature open bottom Lamzu. Something like here on the Fanatec Maya X, and their skate design here honestly is pretty good. Although I will say, I'm always an advocate for pad skates, and the pad skate design on this is very good. I do prefer a skate design that looks like this of the Paro. There's just something about the one on the Maya X and the standard Lamzu brand that I'm just partial to because I love Lamzu. And you could argue that the closed bottom is better to prevent dust from getting on the mouse. The stock skates are very good. They are not super slow like standard stock skates. They're on the faster side of stock skates. I enjoyed them, had no complaints about them. They caused me to get stuck when I was micro adjusting or changing directions. As you can see, no adhesive around the edges, so they're not picking up grime or dust either. And overall, just a really good experience on the skates. The sensor, as you can see here, is a little bit forward of center. I don't think it's very odd for an ergo of this size or shape to have its sensor placed there. And the sensor placement didn't really stick out to me in game. Just a pretty standard experience there as well. You know I'm happy when I get to include ELO shapes in my review, so here we have a quick comparison of the Paro and the mouse that's most often compared to in conversation, that being the Death Adder V3 Hyperspeed. As you can see here, we gain 7 grams unless you're going to battery mod the Hyperspeed. Going to the Paro, it doesn't have quite the same backup presence here. The Paro drops off more quickly than that of the V3 Hyperspeed. Scroll wheel doesn't protrude quite as much, and it's just a little bit shorter of a mouse with more obtrusive side buttons, which I find is a plus. The mouse that I actually directly compare this to, and I absolutely love this, is a mouse that I made for a very long time, that being the glorious Model D Minus, which I'll show you here in a bit. Overall slope and profile at the top here is almost identical, beside the D Minus being a little bit taller in the front, with the exact same length, almost the exact same width, same height, and you're getting 19 pounds. This was a banger ergo mouse. I know people give Glorious a lot of crap, so I always have a place in my heart for Glorious, and the fact that this is almost bringing back a shape that I love for so long is awesome. Side note, the sensor position here is a little tiny bit forward of the Model D Minus, like I was mentioning earlier. So I'm going to try and blast through these shape comparisons to get you the most info I can in the least amount of time. In the interest of not doing that, I'm going to blabber about it and waste your time. Anyway, this is interesting because I've not shown a wired mouse outside of the OP1 8K in a shape comparison before, so I'm not going to know what to do with my hands or this wire for half the time. But regardless, this is the shape that I find most similar to the Lamzu Paro, this being the glorious Model D Minus. You can see a slight difference in how quickly it tapers off here in the front, and that the click height is higher on the Model D Minus by a little bit on both sides. But as we come to the side here, you can see that hump profile is very similar beside the D Minus. Is a little bit taller here throughout the front of the mouse. And I will say the way the D Minus sort of chops off at the front sort of sets like an illusion as to them being different lengths lengths, but they are the exact same length, which I think is the thing that contributes most to them feeling so similar to me in hand, that my fingers just hang over the exact same little amount with the way I have a grip. The general hump profiles are pretty similar. Again, from the back here, you can see how similar those profiles really are. And overall, maybe I'm biased towards the Paro shape because I mained the D- for so long, and I felt like I was right at home as soon as I picked it up. But that's really only as far as the shape goes. And like I said earlier, the quality on this is extremely high. I found almost zero flaws with the mouse. But I'll shut up and do another shape comparison. So this is the Deluxe M900 Mini Pro. It's one of the other few small ergos that I would recommend, as it's also sub 50 grams. You can see on this, the click height is even lower on the M900 Mini Pro, and there's slightly less defined comfort grooves. The main difference here is the M900 Mini Pro tapers off a little bit more quickly here in the front, but it maintains more of that hump and taller presence here in the back as we taper off compared to the quicker drop off here. And I think you can clock it pretty well from this angle. There is just more of a presence for your pinky finger, a little bit more of a right jut out here on the front of the M900 Mini compared to that of the Paro, which in hand does really affect how it feels because it feels a lot wider on the front right side of the mouse than the Paro. Yeah, in hand, my pinky sort of wraps around the front here on the Paro and feels very comfortable, whereas the M900 Mini was never uncomfortable, but it makes my pinky sort of sit farther out here and further back. So this is similar to how you grip. Just take note of that. I do think this bottom view here gives you a pretty good idea of how similar these shapes are. They're not one-to-one. There are slight differences in curvature here and there, front and right, and just the front of the mouse in general is a little bit wider and less almost user-friendly, a little bit sharper corners on the M900 Mini than that of the Paro. And a real quick comp here just to show you the sort of Death Adder V3 Mini traits that we have here on the Paro compared to the Faker Death Adder V3 Pro. You can see the very similar shape, ergo style side buttons. Do you know if the size perception here is warped because of how my camera is angled? This mouse is not the same size as the Paro. But yeah, a Death Adder V3 Mini, this basically is. Overall, my experience with this mouse was very positive. Again, I expected to pull it out of the box and be like, it's an ergo, don't love this. I'll test it for a bit, make my review, put it away. This is straight up my new favorite ergo, and it will be staying on my desk as the ergo of choice. It will replace the Deluxe M900 Mini that I've sort of kept at bay and used when I felt the need to have an ergo, as I prefer ergos to be a little bit smaller than something like the Death Adder V3 Pro. I'll be honest, I don't love this black colorway, but it was a review unit from Lamzu. Side note, all my opinions are my own, not influenced at all by the fact this was a review unit. This mouse is just an absolute banger. It's the small ergo that I would absolutely recommend over all others. We know the Death Adder V3 shape is a goated ergo shape, and this is just a smaller version of that. So if you're looking for a small ergo and you don't mind spending over $100, just go and pick this up. You will not regret it at all. I didn't really find a single flaw with the mouse. Performance-wise, it's a Lamzu mouse. It performed really, really well on 1 to 8K. No issues in mouse tester, no issues in game. Great in Kovacs and Fortnite, blah, blah, blah. My standard spiel had no issues whatsoever. And just overall, this mouse is the total package. Lamzu always has good scroll wheels. The Almond opticals were stupidly well implemented. I really like the side button, the placement, the side, the snappiness. Build integrity was on point. One of the better stock skate experiences I've had recently. I'm just going to reiterate how nice it is to not have gunk and crap around the edges. This is the new trend in skates. It's been around for a while, but it's becoming more popular to not put the adhesive around the edges. Please, everyone, do this with your mice. We love it. And yeah, honestly, it's the perfect small ergo. I don't really have much else to say. Again, I sound like I'm shilling the crap out of this because I am, because I just do really like it that much. Lamzu killed it. Those of you who've been living under a rock, yes, this works with Lamzu's WebDriver. You can see it here. It's got everything you could want. It's very responsive. It's very good. It's a WebDriver. That's all I'm going to say. Now for a quick sound test. Weights and measurements. I'm a loser, so I love this part. Stock Lamzu Paro comes in at 50.3 grams. For a quick comparison, the M900 Mini that I showed earlier is 48.7 grams, and your full-size Death Adder V3 comes in at roughly 60 grams, give or take the dot skates and the grip tape that I have applied. Measurements-wise, I clocked the back player coming in at about maximum 64.5 millimeters. Where my thumb rests here, we taper down to just about 64 millimeters. As you can see here, the mouse continues to narrow as we get to the front, so the point at which that tapering stops gets down to 55.9 millimeters, and then I clocked the max hump height at 40.4 millimeters. So that about wraps up for my thoughts on the Lamzu Paro. Yep, hat's still on. Anyway, the mouse sort of delivers on the hype of being a Death Adder V3 Mini, and the implementation on this mouse is near flawless, making it not just my new favorite small ergo, but my favorite ergo overall. Lamzu really crushed it with this release, and honestly, they're making an argument for being the #1 company in the space. I've always thought them to be very solid, but they just released banger after banger recently, and they don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Follow me on Twitter at Dasherzak. Check out the Mousecast podcast. Join up in my Discord server, and with that, we'll see you.